We'll go to Justin Jackson.
Hey, Coach. Obviously, the situation this year with scheduling is very unique, very weird. So the game Wednesday with Robert Morris gets canceled late, and then I'm just kind of wondering, like, do you guys have like a list of teams, to sort of call in situations like this? Because I'm guessing maybe this won't be the first or last time something like this happens this year.
No, Justin, we're fortunate to have Josh, because Josh can get on the laptop and find teams that need games, teams that have just dropped out of a tournament for whatever reason or a game. And no, not me. I'm old school, man. I pick up the phone and call and say, hey, do you want to play? Josh is way, way, way ahead of me.
Cody Nesper.
Hey, Coach. I was just wondering, when did you first know, or at least have a thought that it would be North Texas? And at this point, how much do you know about them?
Yes, it was yesterday. It was yesterday. Was it before or after practice, Josh? I can't remember, but it was sometime during practice. We found out that I think they actually said we'll be there tomorrow, which would have been today. But they couldn't, and they did. They checked the flights, and they couldn't get a flight that worked. So, yeah, I think it was, after you have so many people say, oh yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, let me talk to my athletic director, and then they don't call you back. If somebody says, hey, we're good to go, then, I think we have a tendency to stick with those people more than those people who, hey, let me check and I'll get back with you. Because I think yesterday, not to name names, but there were probably 3 or 4 people who said, yeah, I'll get right back with you. Let me go talk to my AD, and never did get back with us.
Mike Tasaza.
Hey, Bob, how's it going?
Mike, I'm doing terrific.
Well, I'm going to hopefully not change that, but put you on the spot here if you don't mind.
Well, you usually do. It'd be a surprise if you didn't, wouldn't it?
Thank you. I'll add that to my resume. Football just canceled their Oklahoma game, shut down team activities. That's just kind of recent. But Mike Krzyzewski had some pointed comments about just the situation the sport is in and coaches are in right now. I don't know how to ask, but like, just does this feel right at the moment, or are you guys just kind of navigating as you go along and just doing the best you can with every day until someone tells you what to do and you figure out how to handle what the newest directive is?
Well, I don't think we shut down the country, Mike. My fear is not what you're trying to ask me. My fear is the alternative. The alternative is we close all the restaurants, we close all the bars, we close everything. They don't open back up. And then we got a whole bunch of downtowns that have absolutely nothing but vacant buildings. And it's happened before. We went through that with the Great Depression, and we've got to keep America moving. And I understand we have to do that safely. I'm not saying be reckless about it. But I think you can overdo everything, and I think sometimes this has been a little overdone. And it's when you talk about people shutting down and all the cases and all that, the majority of it is contact tracing.
Mm-hmm.
You have one guy who tests positive and he's on a bus with everybody else. And if he comes within 6 feet of anybody on that bus, then contact tracing says they've got to set. It's like 14 days. They got to quarantine. So it's, it sounds at times worse than what it is, I guess.
I guess I understand what you're saying there, but I don't know, just feel confident that you can continue to don't want to say piece together a season, but it does kind of feel like piece together a season at this point, and then just continually dodge and evade and play games as you can?
Well, we shut down the university and we sent our guys home. It's the worst thing I ever could have done.
Mhm.
Because we had more, that's when we had all the positives. And the time that they've been here and when they got back, obviously we tested them and made sure that everybody was good. But we ended virtually every workout with, this is up to you guys. You know, if you guys want to play, you can't put yourself in a bad spot. You know, you've got to be, you know, there's enough of you teammates, and I understand it's hard. You know, you can't really, your girlfriend goes home, you can't have her over to your place, you know, the day she gets back. You can't do that. That's that's a way that this could spread and really end it all for all of you. You know, so and they've been great. I mean, they've been fantastic, actually, of trying to do the right thing, trying to take care of themselves, you know, and I say that and I'll end up jinxing myself. But I mean, from basically the time that they got back. And you know, here's the thing, Mike. You know, people say, well, you know, you ought to send them home. Okay, so we're going to send them home. Do you think they're not going to play somewhere? They're going to play. Whether they go to the YMCA, whether they go to a rec, whether they go play in the playground, you know, whether they go anywhere, their old high school, whatever, they're going to play. I would just as soon control who they're going to be around as not know. And so, you know, our guys being here and playing against each other, you know, was good. And it's worked out well for us.
All right, thanks.
John Antoniuk.
Along those lines, you're going to have to be agile all year, right? This is something you're going to have to probably deal with until you get to the tournament.
Yeah, my days of being agile, I think have long since passed.
Strange times we're in.
Yeah, but not, you know, it's not so strange that I had to try to be agile and hurt myself. You know what I mean? Now, you know, I mean, there's no guarantees. I mean, you can do everything right and still still end up with COVID-19. I understand that, but I mean, our guys really have taken a lot of precautions and they've given up a lot. I mean, they've given up a lot to try to, you know, make sure that we get through the year. And, you know, my thing was always, you know, we can do the best we can possibly do. And hopefully that's enough. Or we can, you know, go run around and end up like we did a year ago. No conference tournament, no NCAA tournament. And you know, I think what happened out in South Dakota was good. You know, the bubble, I thought it was good. I thought it turned out well. It turned out well that, you know, we were able to have a tournament. We were able to have a championship game. Is it a sacrifice for them? Absolutely. I mean, absolutely it is. But I mean, it is what it is. And again, our guys have been great. I mean, I can't say enough about how much they want to play games. And they know they have to do the right thing to play games.
I was going to mention that because after we got done talking to you, whatever it was, Tuesday or whatever, talked to your guys and they all were like, they're thankful to be playing right now. Particularly Deuce, who saw on the ticker that Ohio State, Michigan got canceled and he couldn't watch the Ohio State, Michigan football game on Saturday.
Yeah, well, he could, you know. I just think, John, that, you know, our guys deserve a lot of credit for getting this far. You know, now we got a long, long way to go. Mm-hmm. But if they continue on the path that they've been on and, you know, I mean, hey, some guy can walk up and say hello and shake your hand and the next thing you know, you test positive. But, it's hard, man. It's hard. Somebody comes up and goes to put their arm around you, say, wait, whoa, don't do that, man. That's tough. And now we're going to come up on Christmas break. What do you do? Do you tell them don't go home at Christmas? I don't think you can do that. You can't tell them go be around family and loved ones at Christmas. But you take it's a risk, but it's the same thing. We got to do the best job we can possibly do at educating them, so that they try to avoid everything that they can avoid, even though they go home. But we all know, we all know family members have had it. It's the crazy thing, there's degrees of it as well. Some people have it, don't even know they have it, and other people end up in a hospital and fighting for their life. So it's a tough thing to figure out.
Skylar Callahan.
Hey, Bob, do you feel a little bit more confident going into this weekend playing 2 games in 3 days, considering you already got that kind of system under your belt playing out there in South Dakota?
Well, it wasn't ideal. Obviously we wanted to play Robert Morris on that day to give us a little bit more time to prepare. But obviously they couldn't make it work. So, I don't know. I watched North Texas last night, and actually I watched Richmond first, and then I watched North Texas, and then it's over, and I turn that off and turn on the TV, and I'm watching Pitt play. So we're playing a lot of basketball, guys. Basketball is still being played.
Justin Jackson.
Coach, I was going to ask you this the other day when we were Zooming and forgot. I'm just kind of curious on what your reaction might be in this COVID time and with Gonzaga. They, the week before they played you guys, they had, a player test positive, a staff member, I think, test positive. They come back to play you, they play you guys, and then after playing you guys, they shut down team activities. We're sitting here talking about health and COVID, and I'm just kind of wondering if there's any reaction there on your part.
Justin, we can only control what we can control. I can talk to our guys about it. I can't go lecture anybody else about it. Everybody does, what they think is right, and hopefully they're doing the right thing. And it sneaks up on you. I think that's the hard thing. I think it sneaks up on you. You could bump into somebody who has COVID-19 that don't know they have it. At virtually any time. Y'all are probably going to go shopping, buy your wife something really nice and expensive. So, you're taking a risk going in the store.
Keenan Cummings.
Of course, you take a risk if you don't buy them something nice and expensive as well. So.
That's absolutely true.
Bob, I'm curious what you've seen out of this North Texas team, and you mentioned looking ahead. I was curious who has the scout for Richmond.
Ronnie has a scout for Richmond. Ronnie Everhart has a scout for Richmond, and Eric Martin has a scout for North Texas. They're athletic. North Texas is athletic. They're athletic. They run. They were Conference USA champions. They've won 20 games the last 3 years, 20 or more games the last 3 years. They've got it going, and Conference USA obviously is the league that Marshall's in. There's good teams in that league, and for them to win the league and really win it handily, I think they were 14-4, is a pretty good feat. So it'll be good. We went into this with the idea that we need to play those young guys and see what they got, and try to get some of the nerves out. Look at Isaiah. Isaiah's playing on national TV against the #1 ranked team in the country for a freshman. I mean, that takes some nerve. We need to get these guys, and it's just it's hard whenever we still need to try to win, obviously.
Kevin Kinder.
Coach, playing with these quick turnarounds and these things, does that magnify the importance of better talent, of coaches that can adjust better on the fly, of teams that can, take and execute in-game coaching more? Do you see some differences there?
I think guys pretty much do what they do. I don't think there's I don't think anybody tries to come up with the greatest play the world's ever seen in 24 hours. There's a lot of things involved. People think, okay, you pass it to this guy and he scores, or you get him open, whatever. You got to get all those other guys out of the way. So it's more than the guy who passes the ball to the guy who makes the basket. It's the other guys getting their guys out of the way so the guy can do what it is that he does best. So, we're just going to go play. We tried to scout. Like I said, we had 4 scouts. We started with Texas A&M and ended up with South Dakota State. And we started on in the middle of one bracket and ended up on the top of the other one. So it just shows that I think you gotta coach fundamentals, and it's so much easier to make adjustments when you understand the fundamentals of it.
Last question for Coach. We'll go to John.
Hey, just real quick, and maybe a question for Josh too, as you finish this, but are you surprised that these guys came open? And if you look at the 2 teams that you got replacements for, might be upgrades to be able to get these guys to pop open like this?
Not really. You know what, John, it's and this is kind of, I don't know if it's bad to say or whatever, but Josh and I talked about this yesterday. We have people say, oh yeah. Hey, I'm interested. Can't wait. Yeah, that'd be great for us. That'd be great for our team. What's the guarantee? You're going to help us with the transportation, whatever. Hey, okay, yeah, we kind of said that, well, let me go talk to my AD, or let me go talk to my head coach, or whatever. You never hear from them again. That's the part that bothers me. Or they say, we'll get back to you within an hour. They call you 3 days later. Well, what's been going on. They've been calling everybody else saying, hey, West Virginia said they would do this for us. What will you do? And so then all of a sudden you get caught in like a I don't know, bidding war is not the right thing. That's not the right thing to say, but that's basically what it is. And Josh has been great. Hey, this is what we're doing. If you want to come and play, come and play. If you don't want to come and play, go somewhere else. If somebody else is, doing better for you, go do it. And then, but I think the thing that has separated him from everybody else who's trying to do that is his stick-to-itiveness. Is that a word, John? Stick-to-itiveness. Yeah. So
Well, you've been, at least this demonstrates your aggressiveness to try to play a full 27 game schedule.
We owe it to the kids, John. In my mind, we owe it to the fans as well, but we owe it to the kids for sure.
Coach, that's all the questions that I appreciate your time on short notice. Thank you.
Always a pleasure being with you, Miss.
Thank you.
Hey, Mess, since my line's open, I'll ask Josh, how many calls did you make before North Texas was the one that said yes?
I'd have to look at the log, but I'm guessing I probably talked to 50 schools.
Wow.
And there's just so many moving parts in all of this in terms of logistics and timing and everything. And it's just someone can show some interest, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to call you back like Coach Huggs said. And and it's going to work for them. Not everybody is looking to fill the 27 games.
Yeah.
That's where everybody is kind of misunderstood on this. We want to play, and we want our guys to play. And like he said, we owe it to them. But that's not necessarily the case with everybody else across the country. If it doesn't make sense for them and their AD isn't on board, or if their state has certain guidelines, and a lot of things got to align for it to happen. And a lot of people will forget about the testing as well. I mean, we have a certain testing guidelines for the Big 12. So replacing the game on short notice, it's got to work with testing as well.
Real quick, last thing for me. When you found out at 10 o'clock, whatever it was, Tuesday, that Robert Morris wasn't coming, whatever time it was, how long did it take you before you finally got North Texas to say yeah?
Well, I was up late, obviously, till about 2 o'clock in the morning, shooting out emails, shooting out, leaving voicemails. I hate calling people late at night, but everybody in my position across the country is probably in the same boat. So you're looking across the postponements and everything else and seeing logistically, first you look at geography in terms of who's open around you, what makes sense. So you don't hear a lot. I didn't hear a lot from many people until Wednesday morning. Now, North Texas, I have a relationship. He used to be with Baylor, so he reached out to me mid-afternoon. I mean, we had several offers out on the table, but like Coach Huggins said, I mean, there's a lot of people just waiting to hear from their administration, so they're in hold, they're in limbo, and in terms of my job, I work for the greatest coach in the country, not only from X's and O's and wins, but I can get an answer from him within 5 minutes. So it's easy for me. But, he reached out and, like he said, originally we wanted to play right away. And I think that's beneficial to play right away, not knowing, okay, is Richmond, they still got to test out and who knows what could happen with that game. And your window starts closing.
Yeah.
So if you want to get all your games in, you don't want to push games back to mid next week, not knowing whether Richmond's going to happen, whether you're going to have to replace that one, and it just domino effect.
Go keep some blank contracts handy.
They're ready to go. I push on the administration to get them out as soon as possible because I don't want it to fall through. And I mean, we didn't release today until we knew exactly that they, all their tests came back negative and the contract is signed. And so you're nervous until it all happens and they get on a plane and everything's a go.
Cody Nesper.
Hi, Josh. Just first, thanks for taking some questions. And then I was just wondering, what kind of preparation work did you have to do before this season? Because I'm sure, the possibility the games are going to get canceled was very real. I was just wondering, did you put together a short list of teams that as possible replacements or just what all did you do?
Well, the longer you're in this business, the more contacts you have. Obviously, people personally are going to get back to you. Those that you don't have a relationship with are probably you're less likely to hear from. So the longer you're in this business, the more people you know, and the quicker you can get some things done in that regard. But like when they shortened the season and moved it back 2 weeks, I argued it didn't make sense. If you want to limit the games to 27, okay, but move the season up 2 weeks so there's more room to make adjustments. So now you're on a shorter window trying to pack games in, and you want to do it safely, and you want to have the right team and the right opponent and do right by your student athletes. But shortening the season to fit in a certain amount of games didn't seem like the right answer to me.
Kevin Kinder.
Hey, Josh, I know in football there's a national database, as it were, of teams with open dates looking for games, things like that. It sounds more like this is a grassroots thing on the basketball side. Is there room for something like that, over what a site like D1 Blogspot has?
There's guys out there that are trying to put something together. Kevin Paga with Michigan State has has a program out there that he's developing, and I think that's along the lines of what you're looking at for football, and that's out there. More than anything, I use scheduling posts. You can put your posting online that a lot of coaches have access to. Hey, we're looking for this date. We're looking for that date. We're looking for something regional. So that's the first thing I do is go to that scheduling board and start looking at who's available, who wants something. So like I said, there's a lot of things, even though that they say they want a game, right away, it doesn't mean it's going to happen. It can make sense on paper and travel wise and everything else, but there's so many factors that go into it that it's not necessarily going to happen. And I have a lot of schools that just come back and say, you guys are just too hard to prepare for. And that's the reality of it. I mean, they don't want to come in here on short notice and play. So with Richmond on Sunday, I didn't necessarily want to play a game, and I don't think Coach Huggins wanted to play a game right away, but playing an early tip on Friday gives us a little more time to prepare for Richmond. But it's going to be a heck of an opponent, and we're looking forward to the challenge. It's not ideal, but that's the world we live in right now.
Mike Casaza.
Hey, Josh, what's up?
How you doing, Mike?
I'm good. I have a question for you. It kind of relates to football a little bit, but when they were getting their non-conference game in early, the team they were playing had issues with testing and tracing. So they made Eastern Kentucky adhere to the Big 12 standards for testing because the other conferences are different. Do you have to do anything like that in non-conference games or arranging a game like this to ensure that it's up to a certain standard?
Yeah, they have to sign off with their doctors on our testation policy. So they got to go. Big 12 sets a non-conference, which it's the rules we play for conference. We have certain guidelines in terms of testing that those non-conference teams have to follow. So like I said earlier, if you grab a team that might be on their way to, play someone locally, and it makes sense for them to get a check and a guarantee and come play the Mountaineers, it doesn't mean it's going to happen if they haven't done the proper testing in the last 7 days.
Okay, and then we're talking about North Texas here, but by the way, the team you play on Sunday had a pause too. I imagine this is especially hectic for you. Were you also, prior to their reinstating things, looking at ways to possibly replace or adjust for not being able to play Sunday?
You're always, keeping things in mind. I'm making notes of who's dropping and like I said, I had an interview a couple weeks ago. I just hope my phone doesn't, ring. I was enjoying my evening on Tuesday with my family, and I saw Hugs come across my phone, so I knew something happened. So I'd rather not, but certainly we make notes and try to have someone available. But it's like playing whack-a-mole. You're trying to you put out one fire and on to the next, and they just keep on coming. So I mean, you got to be flexible, and it's the world we live in. It's not the most it's a pretty stressful time to be an ops guy, but it's rewarding in the same fact to where you're putting games in front of guys that worked really hard all summer to be here and have that right to play.
And one more, if you don't mind, do you have caps for what you're allowed to offer teams, or can you exceed if the opponent is particularly appealing? Like, how does that go? How are you enticing and signing teams?
Well, I mean, you make enough calls and you gain enough information through other ops guys, especially at our level, to know what the market price is. So I have an idea of what I can pay market price, but I'm not going to get into any of those details. But certain teams you don't want to pay for a team to come in and ruin your net as well. So I try to target certain level of teams and teams that will get something out of. And this is probably a little heavier team than we want to play, and it would have certainly been better to play on Thursday afternoon or today rather than play on Friday and have a short notice for Richmond. But you take what is available, and we're excited for the opportunity.
All right, thanks.
We'll go to Justin Jackson.
Hey, Josh, how you doing?
How you doing, Justin?
Hey, a couple weeks ago, I think it was, we're talking about we're talking about difficulties of scheduling. A couple weeks ago, Notre Dame coach Mike Bray actually went to social media. I'm sure you saw it and tried to advertise to get a game. I'm guessing you guys haven't gotten quite to that point yet, but I'm kind of curious. And, you guys obviously ask questions of opponents. What kind of questions are they asking you? Like, do they wonder about how many fans you guys are letting in and, things of that nature?
Well, the first thing, like I said earlier, is testing. That's the first question they have, and they go to, a lot of coaches don't know what they've done, off the top of their head. So they got to make a call to their doctors or their trainers in charge and figure that out. But travel, they do ask about fans, but more than anything, it's got to make sense for them and their administration for them to pull the trigger and play a game on short notice like that.
We'll go to Joe Mercado.
Josh, you kind of touched on this in your comments to Mike earlier, but how do you guys balance the getting an opponent versus an opponent that's going to help you in the net? And how do you kind of, balance those two parts of it?
Well, I wasn't too concerned about the net in this regard. More often, I was more concerned about timing. Perfect scenario, by morning I would have a team to replace Robert Morris, and we'd have played the game on Wednesday regardless. But that's far-fetched to think we could pull that off in that short a notice. So the fact that North Texas reached out and thought they could be here on Thursday afternoon, considering we had a women's game, which today, this evening. So logistics and gym time and everything else come into it as well. But they were very adamant that they could come, they could get here. They had no issues with testing in terms of what they were required to do, and they felt good about where they were. So confidence and dealing with the head coach and not dealing with a direct operations guy that's got to answer to 4 or 5 people. And like I said earlier, working for Coach Huggins, he gives me a lot of flexibility to do my job, and he's quick to pull the trigger on something when it can go down. We don't mess around and get it done.
Josh, I think that's all the questions today. I appreciate your time on short notice, and thank you for joining us on the Media Zoom.
Thank you, guys.
Reminder to everyone, tomorrow's game, 3:00, is on Big 12 Now on ESPN+. We'll have highlights post-game that we'll send out. We'll also be sending a Dropbox link out as well for photos at halftime and post-game. And there'll be no Media Zoom on Saturday. Please get anything that you all need for Richmond on Friday post-game from coach and the student athletes. Thanks again to everybody for joining on short notice. We'll see you tomorrow.